What's up, guys? I am here on the west side of Albuquerque in Boca Negra Canyon. This is a special place. We're at Petroglyph National Monument, a place I'll tell you much more about. But what we're going to do today is we're going to take a walk through time in one of, if not the oldest states in the United States of America. A state that many people don't know much about. New Mexico is a place with a vast history, a lot of stuff going on, from thousands of years ago to more recent history to colonial times to the present day America. Today I'm going to take you on a little walkthrough of my hometown, the amazing things we have here, and tell you something about a state you probably don't know much about. Come along, vamos. Behind me here you can see the opening to Boca Negra Canyon. Boca Negra in Spanish means black mouth. So it opens up like a mouth, and essentially we're at Petroglyph National Monument. What is a petroglyph? A petroglyph, essentially, petro meaning petrified, captured in time, and glyph meaning something that was written, are these kind of drawings and different kinds of art that has been left by Spanish colonizers 500 years ago, but even earlier, you know, we're talking thousands of years ago, the native Pueblo, Native Americans, Indians, whatever you would like to call them, the people that lived here, that predated the Spanish by thousands and thousands of years, they too left glyphs, they left writing, they left beautiful, you know, things from history. And I would love to share them with you today. A walk back in time. Come with me. What I think is interesting, it doesn't matter where you go, you can see cave paintings, whether it's France, whether it's ancient China, whether it's ancient New Mexico. People, no matter where they were, wanted to capture the world that we're living in. They wanted to leave their mark on history. They wanted to show, you know, what they saw, what the symbology of their life was, and they wanted to, you know, capture it in a place where they could share with others, to denote different things, such as animals, such as gods, such as roots, such as many different things. So here we have beautiful examples of petroglyphs. You guys can see here, I mean, very clearly it's a bird. And what they've done essentially was they carved it using basically very simple stone tools in the very Native American style. So here you can see this. This is Pueblo Indian style for New Mexico. We've got a nice bird. We've got some sort of rock. And what's cool is, you know, we're just basically out of the parking lot here, but we already have come to all of these different glyphs. Here you can see another one. What is it? I don't know. A key, maybe a loop. This reminds me of something I saw in Turkey. It's very interesting, and you can see it's petrified because it's stood the test of time. They carved these. This is a typically volcanic rock. We can see back over this ridge right here, there's actually volcanoes. There's 3 beautiful dormant volcanoes here on the west side of Albuquerque. The landscape here in Albuquerque itself, many people, you know, I say I'm from New Mexico, the place that Breaking Bad was filmed, and they're picturing, you know, a desert, like I'm from the Sahara Desert or something. New Mexico is what we would call a high desert, meaning the altitude here in Albuquerque is, it's actually higher than Denver, the mile-high city. We're over a mile high for sure. And the area, the landscape is defined by these kind of very Southwest themes, you know, like big buttes and mesas and mountains, and it's very like aggressive, very like carved out, and it's so beautiful. It's dry, it's really dry, high altitude, it's cold in the winter, it's hot in the summer, but you get expansive views like this. As I'm starting to ascend this precarious rock face, I will tell you that New Mexico, while being one of the last 4 states to join the Union, New Mexico itself has the oldest capital city in North America, Santa Fe, dating back from the 1500s. Officially with the Spanish, if you're, you know, counting cities based on colonization. Whoo, the altitude here is tough. But obviously people have been living in New Mexico thousands and thousands of years before that. Native Americans in New Mexico are a staple of society here. We maybe have more per population than anywhere else in the United States, and we have a large chunk of our northwestern land in New Mexico is actually reservation land, both for the Zunis and especially the Navajo Nation, which is this massive swath of land that covers northern New Mexico, northern Arizona, a little chunk in Utah, and you know, upwards of hundreds of thousands of people still living life in their own way. And we have another city here called Gallup, New Mexico, which is also incredibly influenced by Native American culture, and it's a very interesting place, to say the least. As we get to the top of this thing, here you guys can see the Sandia Mountains. This is one of the major mountain chains that juts off just the Rocky Mountain chain, which basically starts, just head that way a couple thousand kilometers and you're gonna hit the Rocky Mountains. So this is kind of an offshoot of that, and you guys can see it goes all the way over here. And the Sandia Mountains, which is really unique and why we love it, is actually, Sandia in Spanish means watermelon. And so these mountains during the day, you can see are this kind of blue. This is what we call big sky country. So we've got large skies, but when the sun sets, these things turn a majestic color of pink/purple. And it's, you know, whenever you think of the Southwest in the United States, I think that is what you are thinking of, my friends. New Mexico is really a land of Native American symbology. Our New Mexican flag, which you can see here, is and the symbol in the center is called a Zia, and it's based on something from the tribe, the Zia tribe. And I'll explain more about that in a different episode. But what I want to show you is here some really typical petroglyphs here, and you know, they think these things could be upwards of 400 to 700 years old, maybe even older. We have here a traditional figure, have some drawings here. I know they kind of look like kids' drawings, but they're actually really old and cool. And here is a Sopapillas, which is a flute player. Kind of hard to see, to be honest with you, but the Sopapillas is one of the Native American symbols for music, for dancing, for joy and festivities, and a very important symbol in New Mexico. Every New Mexican knows the Sopapillas, and you know, it's worth getting a tattoo of, maybe. When the Spanish came to New Mexico, they named the natives who lived here Pueblo Indians. Pueblo in Spanish means city, and many people don't know this, but many people thought New Mexico was the location of El Dorado, or the city of gold, the city that the Spanish people thought they would find and that they would capture the wealth of the New World and bring back to Spain on their boats heroically, the conquistadors. That, of course, was not the case, but there's also an urban legend here that we have 7 ancient pueblos in New Mexico that run on a north-south line, all following the sun. When the sun kissed these cities, they shined bright, just like gold. So many people say that there's also a possibility that this is the story, the tale, the folklore that came out of this time period, that the Spanish did find El Dorado, but El Dorado were cities made of adobe, which is this material made out of mud or clay to insulate against the harsh sun and the cold winds of the New Mexico high altitude plains. So we're gonna continue on now to Old Town of Albuquerque. We're gonna jump ahead. Let's go 400 years into the future, into one of the oldest churches in New Mexico, probably one of the oldest churches you'll find in the United States. So now we find ourselves at the entrance to Old Town, and here we have Don Francisco Cuervo y Valdez, the founder of Albuquerque. Albuquerque was theoretically founded in 1706. When I was here, we had our 300-year anniversary, which for an American city is quite old. And here you go, Old Town, Old Don, Albuquerque. Vamos! As we're directly in the center of the Old Town now, I'm here at the Iglesia San Felipe de Neri, which is the San Felipe de Neri Church, which is the oldest church in Albuquerque, 1706, founded. And the center of Albuquerque was essentially brought about through colonialism, through the Spanish. But what's cool about it is the architecture itself here is a really nice mix between kind of the Spanish architecture that you would find in the New World, as well as native kind of practicality. So here you can see a lot of the stuff we have here is in this adobe. Adobe, as I said, is a material that's essentially made out of clay or mud packed with straw, and then the outside is baked in the hot sun, creating a really nice external layer. It keeps you cool in the summer months when it's ridiculously hot, and it's really insulating because they'd always build it super thick, just like this. So in the winter, you don't get too cold. The colonials here in New Mexico. New Mexico was really founded by a guy named Juan de Oñate. Juan de Oñate came to New Mexico in the 1500s, just after the Spanish started colonizing everything from New Mexico all the way down until Chile. New Mexico was an important trading route as it connected a lot of the eastern parts of the United States all the way to California, and especially was an interconnected part of what was formerly the Mexican territory ruled under the Spanish. New Mexico itself has been under many flags before being part of the United States. It became a state in 1912, but before that, it was a federal territory for, you know, about 100 years after it was taken after the Spanish, the Mexican-American War in the 1840s. A lot of what you find New Mexico is historically is a lot of the colonial times from Spanish, and then before when it was Native American. So New Mexico is this really cool blend of old world, new world kind of mishmash, that you get beautiful buildings like this church, you get beautiful places like this is a very typical Old Town Square. It's nothing super impressive compared to, you know, a lot of other cities, but when you think about the new world, they didn't go big and extravagant, they went practical. They opened barbershops, they opened places for people to pray, for people to tie up their horses, for people to live, to settle. It was that kind of place. So this is the place that I come from. This is the place that I call home. Very, very interesting. So we're gonna take a little tour of what the Old Town's got. There was no COVID, what you would typically find in Old Town is a bustling little tourist center filled with people selling jewelry. We're known in New Mexico for turquoise and our silverwork, rugs from Native American tribes, moccasins, which are special shoes, as well as various kind of cowboy things and New Mexican cuisine. One part about being New Mexican is also we have the heritage of being kind of like the Wild West cowboys, you know, places with saloons, places where people would, you know, open carry revolvers. That's like a real thing, and that's the New Mexico that that kind of came after the Spanish time. But many of the Spanish conquistadors themselves, you know, this is the frontier, you had to protect yourself, and they did that through the open bearing of arms, the open carrying of guns, and the riding of horses, you know, pillaging, cowboys, and all that stuff. Billy the Kid, for many of you that don't know, actually was from New Mexico. He died in the southeast part of New Mexico in a shootout. We learned about that in school. Just as many old western towns are ghost towns, so too is the Old Town in New Mexico today. COVID has pretty much cleared everyone out. It's very weird seeing my city with no one in it. I'm used to seeing other places, but not my city. As I mentioned in my last video, Albuquerque was the home of Route 66. So even today you find hot rods, cool cars, people showing them off. Oh, let's go check this out. So here we are, guys, at our last stop. Behind me are the rail yards. What are the rail yards? Well, essentially, New Mexico was a big hub for things coming from California all the way to the west. So there's lots of trains, and trains used to be the interconnective fabric that used to keep, you know, the United States together from the 1800s and on, especially up until you know, the 1960s, 1970s. You know, train travel was it. Look at this train. Look at that train. So in honor of celebrating Albuquerque and celebrating trains, I'm going to show you two incredibly excellent New Mexican food. So I've went to a place called Stuffy's. This is like an Albuquerque staple, super, super good. They do just New Mexican food. What is New Mexican food? New Mexican food is not Mexican food. It is not Tex-Mex, it is New Mexican food. It is a whole different genre. What New Mexican food is it's a combination, a conglomeration of flavors from Spain, from the local Pueblo tribes of Albuquerque, and from Mexico, from the being part of the new Mexican territory. So, first we've got a tamale. also called a tamale by the gringos here in New Mexico. A tamale essentially is a masa. Masa is corn flour and lard. You make a dough. You then inside fill it with spiced meats, normally spiced with red chili or green chili, which is the typical seasoning, flavoring lifestyle here in New Mexico. And then it's all wrapped up in a little corn tortilla husk. I'm sorry, a corn husk, not a corn tortilla husk, just a corn husk. So I'm gonna open it up for you guys. Here you guys can see. So we've got the husk. This is, I think, a fake husk in this case. Woo! We're doing it on the car. We're doing it real. So here you guys can see. Take a look. So this is what we would call a red chili carne adobada. Carne adobada is a beef that is marinated in the red chili, cumin, cilantro, oregano, and then they stuff it inside. So, and then it's all steamed in this little casing. So let's give it a shot. Mmm. Oh my God. Yes. Now, many Americans, when they think of Christmas, when they think of the fall time, they think of turkeys and hams and pumpkin pie. In New Mexico, we think of tamales, we think of pozole, we think of red chili, we think of ristras. So New Mexico is really a whole different, whole different ball of wax, as they would say, in comparison to, even Arizona or the rest of the area. So, get yourself a tamale. Food number 2, and the reason they call it stuffies, is a stuffed sopapilla. So a sopapilla, essentially, sopapilla in our Spanish dialect is a pillow, and you can see it looks like a pillow. So it's just a ball of dough, shaped typically into a 4 corners. It has this really nice kind of sweet smell, sweet like aromatic. I think they add a little corn flour in here too, and definitely lard. And it puffs up like a pillow. And then inside, you can stuff it with various toppings. So this is kind of like the burger version. But the really traditional way is just to cover the whole thing in honey right when it's fresh out of the fryer. I don't think there's anything really better. So here we have, again, carne adobada. We've got some cheese. We've got some, I actually don't think I've been to stuffies before. We've got some lettuce. And there's only one thing we can do is to give it a bite. Okay. It's crispy, it's crunchy, it's spicy with the red chili. It's got this really nice aromatic chili flavor, pepper flavor that's just wonderful. We've got a little bit of creaminess from the cheese, and we've got it's just, I don't know, reminds me of home. It's absolutely delicious. So if you made it this far in the video, guys, I want to say thank you so much for coming with me for this tour of old New Mexico and old new New Mexico and new New Mexico. So thank you guys for coming. We're gonna do a few more videos in New Mexico, and our next stop is a place that I will share with you next week. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Gracias y hasta luego.